And the Cal Grant comes in three sizes. For a CSU campus, Cal State University, you can get up to $5,472. For a UC school, up to $12,192. That's a nice grant. It's guaranteed. It's an entitlement. If you qualify for it, you'll get it. And there's private loans, private Cal Grants for private colleges of $97.08. It used to be that the private Cal Grants were larger across the board than either the CSU or the UC, but that's changing because the UC kids need that money. And the legislature felt they shouldn't use taxpayers' money to underwrite the financial health of private schools, which has some merit to the argument. Let me talk about Cal Grants for a bit. As you know, this thing's being recorded, so we're going to have two versions. One's going to be for California, one's going to be for non-California. This is part of the California one. There are four things that you need to qualify for a Cal Grant. The first thing is you have to demonstrate a need using that formula. If you don't have a demonstrated need, you're not going to get a Cal Grant. So that's the first thing. Second thing is you need a 3.0 GPA or above. And the Cal Grant formula is very different from your general GPA formula, and the schools know what it is. They're prepared to do the calculations for you, and they'll take care of that for you almost automatically. It's pretty easy to qualify for in the GPA front. Then they have certain limits on assets and on income, and it changes every year. And if you have a great GPA and you have a lot of need, but if either your assets or your income exceeds those limits, you won't get a Cal Grant. And this is the big one. You have to attend college in the state of California. Now, we wonder why the California colleges are so overcrowded. One of the major reasons they're overcrowded is because kids understandably don't want to run away from their Cal Grants. So in order to compensate, we have to build a lot more seats and rooms and universities in California to accommodate California kids who want to stay here, which is fine, but it's not the cheapest way to do that. I would advocate that what we ought to do is let our kids take Cal Grants out of state so we wouldn't have to build more campuses. And I will tell you this, if you were a needy kid and you came from California into a school in Indiana and you were bringing along a Cal Grant of $12,000, you'd be a real attractive student for me, and I'd want to admit you. So there's a lot of arguments both for and against the way the Cal Grants are structured. There's also a Cal Grant B. In order to get that, you have to have a 2.0 GPA using that formula, and you're given an award of $1,551. And for the first year. Thereafter, if you do reasonably well at college, you'll then graduate to a full-blown Cal Grant. If you're in the top 2% that second year, you not only get the Cal Grant, but you also get the $1,551. That's pretty good. That's a pretty nice package from the state. There's a Cal Grant C for kids who don't want to spend 4 years at college, who want to go to vocational training or something like that that has a shorter timeline. I really like this because not every kid belongs to college. And some kids want to just get out there and make a living. And so we recognize that in the state of California. And we have this thing called the Cal Grant C. Remember I talked about limits? These are the current limits for the coming year. For Cal Grant A, if you're a family of 6 or more, you can make up to $92,600 and still get a Cal Grant A. And you can read the numbers all the way down on that side. The Cal Grant B has lower limits, but they always have the possibility of moving up to an A. That's why they do that. And the asset ceiling for every family applying for financial aid this year is $62,000. So if you qualify in every way, but you report assets on the FAFSA of $63,000, you won't get a Cal Grant. So if you're near that ceiling and you think you're needy, I would start paying attention to your assets and maybe moving them around enough so you don't have to report more than $62,000. One way, by the way, to shelter stuff, and maybe the cure's worse than the disease, because they don't qualify, they don't count retirement assets. If you take some liquid assets and dump it into a retirement, it disappears. So maybe you can get under the limits now that you have some lead time to do something like that.